Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman. Today, we're going to discuss something social and cultural, and it is my job, or should I say my goal, to bring a biblical perspective. Today's story, we're going to be a little bit more serious today. I do not believe today's story calls for, sarcasm, or snark or mockery. I mean, we might get a little snarky, I still gotta be me. But I want to talk about this Nolan Wells story. I've waited a couple of days to cover this story because I wanted to give it some time to cycle through social media. And I wanted to give investigators an opportunity to get us more information. But basically, a young teenage boy down in Mississippi was partying over the 4th of July weekend with some friends of his. And like teenagers do, they're all together. And then somehow, we don't know, Nolan gets separated from the group. And then a few days later, his body is turned up and it is determined that he is deceased. So the first thing I want to do is bring you guys up to speed as to the news story, as to what happened. And then I kind of want to give my perspective in hopes that I can kind of call believers to a place of being sober-minded and to be really thoughtful about the commentary and the narrative that we present surrounding this story. So let's take a look at this news clip first.
This morning, investigators in Mississippi are combing over videos taken on Horn Island around the hours Nolan Wells was last seen alive, including this clip from social media that has gone viral, the contents of which are unclear.
I don't know the origins of that video at this point. But yes, we are looking into it. That's been brought to our attention.
Wells and his friends were celebrating the 4th of July. The sheriff now looking into claims from the mother of one of the friends, who says Wells decided to stay behind when a mechanical issue caused their boat to take on water.
I believe I'm aware that she said that, or she may have made that in a written statement, but as far as our findings of that, that's still part of our ongoing investigation.
ABC News confirming one of Wells' friends on the trip made a missing persons report to the Coast Guard around 11 p.m. that night. Wells' mother filing her own report with the Sheriff Department just after midnight. Authorities have said they believe Wells drowned, but the sheriff stressed their work is still ongoing to determine exactly what happened.
We're awaiting the state's autopsy report from the medical examiner's office.
Wells' family attorneys launching their own investigation. They allege his cell phone was returned with deleted text messages.
At this time, we do not have the cell phone that they speak of, and we've never had the cell phone, but it is to my understanding that we requested the cell phone for an extraction. We're working towards the same goal as the family. We want a thorough investigation, and that's what we're going to continue to do until we arrive at the answers that the family deserves.
And the sheriff says he and his team are still reviewing a substantial amount of video and images they have received from the public. And he says he welcomes that independent investigation the family attorney says they plan to conduct. Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've had an opportunity this is a news segment from Good Morning America. And I'd like to get a few things out the way. First of all, I'm a mother, right? I am a mother of 4 children. I have 2 teenage boys, 2 teenage girls. And my children go on aquatic style trips all of the time. They just went whitewater rafting a week ago. And they're always doing things with their friends. And so first I want to send condolences to the Wells family because I cannot imagine or relate to or just try to understand the immense pain and grief a parent must feel to find out when they find out that their child, who they just assumed that they would see later or in a couple of days, is now gone. With that said, as you guys know, I'm covering this not just because a young man has lost his life, but because of the narrative and the direction that this story has, the turn that it has taken. By now, you also may already know that attorney ambulance chasing, race hustling, race baiting, Ben Crump has been retained. His services, as well as the services of Al Sharpton, both of these individuals who do not have stellar reputations for being attached to anything in good faith, both of them are attached to this story. But we're going to stick a pin in that, and we're going to come back to that. When I first heard about this story, I would agree. You're not going to get any argument from me that there are too many details of this story that simply do not make sense. And as a mother, I would be demanding answers. I want to know, why was his cell phone left behind? Who had the cell phone? I would also want to know, why did he choose to stay behind? I understand there was some water that was getting into the boat, and all one group decides to go, he decides to stay. I'd be interested to know the young lady he stayed behind with. Who is she? What is the nature of their relationship? All kinds of questions like that come to mind. I think it's interesting that a friend around 11 p.m. filed a missing persons report, and then the mother filed a report as well. To me, typically, when someone files a report and gets a situation like this, they document it. To me, that's a reasonable amount of time to file a report. If the last time he was seen is 3 p.m., it's now 11 o'clock, and you're like, where's Nolan? It would make sense that someone would initiate contact with the authorities out of concern. I also have questions about the news story mentioned these deleted text messages. I cannot confirm or deny, but if the family is saying that these text messages were deleted, and then the police are saying that they don't even have this phone in their possession, that is weird to me. If you are actively investigating this case, to me, the cell phone is evidence that should have been confiscated and should have been made part of this investigation. The parents are saying the messages were deleted. How they would know that, I don't know. I know on my phone, I can go, and once you delete messages, you can go in the trash and kind of look at those messages. But the fact that here in the news story, the police guy didn't seem really confident in having secured those messages using the extraction method is concerning to me. That is a red flag. So the state is doing their autopsy, as they should, and as you know, that is going to take some time to get back. And as a mother, you best believe I too would be doing my own independent investigation and my own independent autopsy, because my son is dead. Okay. I don't have answers. In order for me to get the closure that I need, I'm a mama bear. I want to get to the bottom of it. Here is where my desire for the truth and my desire to get to the bottom of what happens parts ways with the Nolan family. And I don't mean any disrespect, but I am struggling to either take serious or to have confidence in any family's desire at truth. I struggle to be confident in that the moment Ben Crump and Al Sharpton enter the chat.
The chronic victim can never be trusted, says Carl Jung.
Because I want you to know that I am more offended as an African-American woman than you will ever be.
The chronic victim can never be trusted.
The reason we could never be who we wanted and dreamed to be in is you kept your knee on our neck. We could run corporations and not hustle in the street, but you had your knee on our neck. We had creative skills. We could do whatever anybody else could do, but we couldn't get your knee off our neck.
The chronic victim can never be trusted.
It's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Stay on your knees. Stay on the plantation, boy. I've decided to be a free man. Slavery is a choice.
The moment these two individuals are on a case, that is a huge red flag to me. It tells me that the character of the family is not one that either understands the fact that these men are of horrible reputation. They've never been attached to any case in good faith. And typically the only reason why they are involved because there is some sort of civil payday at the end. There's a pot of money at the end of the rainbow. And they're like a bunch of greedy, money hungry leprechauns chasing, trying to get to the end of the rainbow for a payout. So when I analyze this story, two things can be true at the same time. I can empathize with this family who has lost their son, and I can grieve, and I can say something doesn't smell right because there are too many red flags. But here's what I did not do. Because I am a Christian, and I am to not show partiality, but I am to be a lover of truth, and I should be interested in seeking the truth. My first knee-jerk reaction wasn't, see, this is why Black children can't be friends with white folks. This is why you can't trust white folks. And this is why you should have never been alone as the only one with white folks. Like that mindset never entered into the equation as I analyze this, because I don't understand. I want to show you a clip of some of the things people have been saying online that is absolutely wicked and racist, but they're allowed to say it and get away with it. Yet in the next breath, we don't have this same energy and this same level of caution when young Black boys are hanging out with a group of other young Black boys, and then Taquayshawn ends up getting shot by Jaquarius. Like, no one has ever warned Taquayshawn, hey, you need to watch your back and you need to be careful with this group of Blacks. The assumption is that Black children, there is only safety in numbers with one another. But the moment your friend group becomes a little bit too diverse, or you're in the minority, meaning you're the only Black one in the midst of a group of whites, then you should fear for your life. When I heard that narrative being pushed, I said, you know what? This racial division and the racial hatred that's being stoked by these race grifting hustlers is why this country will not be able to move forward, because they make a living, as Booker T. Washington said, with keeping the grievances on the forefront. They make a living. They make money off of this. I want to speak to this narrative that Black children need to learn their lesson and not be caught out here hanging with white youth, because you never know if you're by yourself. The argument, it seems to me, that they're trying to say that white people are so wicked and so sinful and have such a deep, immense hatred for Blacks that even in the context of a friendship, you can never trust them, because somehow they might pull on the history and the hatred of their forefathers, which we don't even know if their forefathers were racist or held slaves or whatever. But it's this idea that these white people are incapable of forming genuine friendships and relationships of camaraderie with those who don't look like them. And at the end of the day, you should always distrust, because you never know. You may go out with them and may never come back. I'm trying to understand, why is it every weekend in Chicago, when young Black people are hanging out with people who look just like them, that same warning and admonition is not levied, when we actually have demonstrable evidence to demonstrate that you are infinitely more times where the possibility of you being shot by somebody who looks like you, or there's some nefarious intent being done to you by someone who looks like you, the statistics, you guys, are not on our side if we're going to be honest and analyze this situation. And the direction that this story is taking, it really broke my heart, because I said, you know what? My children have friends of all ethnicities. And not one time did I ever feel distrust or discomfort when they went out to the mall or went out on a youth group trip with people who did not look like them. And I can only imagine the burden and the level of accusation. Mind you, Satan is the accuser of the brethren. I think of my church family and all of the young people who they just get along and they're not caught up in all this race stuff. They just love one another on the basis of their humanity and their shared interests. If you like K-pop and they like K-pop, then y'all are friends. Nobody cares who's black. Nobody cares who's white or Indian or Hispanic or African. These young people are forming these relationships based off of common interests. And now we have the race grievance industry and the race hustlers trying to pull their hatred and the animosity that they have for white people. They're trying to insert that into this new generation of children who are like, listen, if I had a disagreement with one of my friends and I'm black and he's white, it had nothing to do with him being white and me being black. We just disagreed. I hate that this is the turn that this story is taking, because one, it's the midterm. So it's a midterm election year, and we needed a distraction to divide the nation, to make sure that Black people are perpetually outraged, that we stay distrustful, and that we're constantly looking over our shoulder at the white boogeyman, who ain't thinking about you, by the way, so that you can just ignore all of the theft, all of the forgery, all of the exploitation that is happening in your own community by the people who look like you. I will tell you this. Al Sharpton and Ben Crump, the moment they entered this story, and the moment they entered and inserted themselves into this case, it told me that the family of Nolan Wells cannot be trusted. And this is my opinion. I don't know these people, but I am telling them, I'm telling you guys, based off of pattern recognition alone, they can't be trusted. No different than Carmelo Anthony's parents, the moment they retained the services of Dominique Alexander. It told me what I needed to know about their character. Based off of pattern recognition, it is a known fact that Ben Crump is a no good ambulance chasing hustler who is only interested in a payday based off of how he can exploit the pain of Black people for his own selfish gain. And old ultra perm Al Sharpton is the same way. So here's what I intend to do. How about we all just wait for the facts? Oh, I agree. There are way too many red flags here and things that don't make sense to me that cause me to I'm seeking more questions than answers that we have right now. But what I refuse to do is allow my flesh to be manipulated by people who have never proven to operate on the side of righteousness or honesty, but rather they're driven by greed and money. And so here's what I'd like to see. I want to see the results of that state autopsy, and I want to see the results of the autopsy that the family is doing. I have questions about his call log and his text messages. I need more context before I can rush to judgment and just assume that this is a racially motivated homicide or that there was some foul play involved. Why? I'm not led by my feelings. You can't just invoke the vestiges of Blackness and whiteness and automatically get me in my feelings where I turn off my discernment and I don't judge with righteous judgment. I want this to be judged with equal weights and measures. I'm going to take race out of it and determine what happened to this young man? And I'm not going to rush to judgment, but please believe I absolutely have questions. But as a Christian, this is what I am compelled to do. And I'm also absolutely, based off the fruit and the pattern recognition of what we've seen from Ben Crump and Al Sharpton, I already know they think there's a payday involved. Somewhere along the line, there's going to be a wrongful death lawsuit that's going to be initiated. And Ben Crump and Al Sharpton, they want their cut. Why would the family retain their services unless they're on some level? I would hate to believe that this family is this naive to think and believe that Al Sharpton and Ben Crump really care about them. They might be that naive. I don't know. Maybe they're Democrats who don't know any better. But here's what I do know. I know enough about Ben Crump and Al Sharpton to know that if they're anywhere near this, something ain't right. And there's a payday at the end of the rainbow. And getting to the truth is not the goal. The process and the exploitation of this story, that is where the money is. They're going to raise money off of this. And please believe those 2-bit race hustling Negroes are going to get a payday. And unfortunately, that is going to cloud the investigation and the ability to get to the truth, because the pro-wokety woke blackety black crowd, they don't care about that. All they want to do is exploit this for selfish gain. So I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? There's more that I could say about this. There are more clips that I could react to, but I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? After seeing all of the clips of the people who immediately are rushing to judgment and are trying to make this about race, why is it that we are unable to separate facts from our feelings and just examine a situation based off its merit? You know why? It's because of the idolatry in our heart. It's because of the ethnic narcissism. We center everything. The center of the world has to revolve around us and our ethnicity as if it is something to be gloried in. And only through the humility and the recognition of all of us understanding that we are fallen and broken image bearers before a righteous and holy God, until we lay down the idol of this race stuff like this is going to continue to happen, and people are going to continue to be deceived and duped and bowing the knee to this idol of ethnicity. And I'm just committed to not engaging in it. But leave me your thoughts down in the comments box below. I'm sure this is not the last video I will do on this, but until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.